Argus has a level of mechanical complexity in particular related to your positioning that will test you more than most Legion encounters and caps off the expansion. Enhancement has a lot of tools to provide extremely high and very useful damage output alongside being able to cover some very niche jobs if necessary. What is important is to know whether or not you'll be collecting orbs in the last phase, which I will cover separately at the end in the minutia section, as the footage shown will be of me not doing this. First is the tier 30 talents. Here, Windrush Totem is invaluable to help give extra room for the group to spread during Gaze of Sargeras, or to readjust following Apocalypsis module spawns. Neither other choices come close to how useful this can be for the entire group, and I would strongly recommend it above anything else on that tier. Second is defense and mobility. Defense in the fight is quite contextual depending on what effects you suffer from and what the raid needs. Importantly, you should be looking to get the Gift of the Sea in phase 1 to reduce your risk from damage due to the versatility it gives. If you happen to get Soul Blight on you, make sure that you have both Astral Shift ready for the Tortured Rage that's going to come and sync up with it, and Spirit Walk available so you can get out comfortably and survive the dot. Astral Shift in the final phase should be saved for double chain breaks when you have those debuffs, or any hotspot moments where healers seem like they're struggling with raid damage, to make sure that you can cover those gaps, as you are probably one of the most fragile in the raid. Spirit Walk in phase 3 should be used immediately to get out and break chains if needed and asked, or to readjust after sights to stick to the boss. Finally, Windrush should be coordinated with your raid's other movement tools to make sure that you can cover as many Gaze of Sargeras casts as possible to give the raid as much time to get spread, in particular in the last phase, as they can cross over very harshly. Third, DPS optimization and gear choices comes down to the legendaries that you are still generally using anyway. Gloves and Eye, and in early progress, if you want a little bit of leeway, Pride As can be slipped in just in case. If you're tasked with doing the orb collection in phase 3, you want to make absolutely sure that you have a Talk of Helheim neck from Maw of Souls to increase your movement speed when dead, so that you can collect those orbs more efficiently. When it comes to DPS, you should always try to aim to make sure that you're stacking the haste and verse in phase 1, in part due to the survivability that it's going to grant you as well. Though you can grab the crit and mastery one early for the 10 seconds at the start, and then switch to the haste and verse one just as he's casting Tortured Rage and he winds up the first scythe. You should then also be aiming to stack the haste verse one all the way up to 4 just before the phase ends, and generally speaking that's the amount that most people will get. Don't delay any cooldowns in this phase, as if you do use them quickly you'll get an extra buffed one just at the tail end of the transition, and for phase 3 you can then delay either your first or second Doomwinds casts for either the first or second module, depending on what you need, for more burst if the raid deems it necessary, but it will impact your boss damage, so this will depend on your raids. Make sure to crush lightning when each module spawns, as the range is surprisingly large to up your boss damage, and also be aware that saving Feral Spirit briefly at the very tail end of the final phase when leading up to the Bloodlust is a good idea to line it up with the final burst of Titan Forging that you're going to receive. Lastly is Minutia, which I mentioned I would talk about the Ghost Wolf Orb collection. When it comes to that in phase 3, generally you should be dying on the second module detonation and staying Ghost Wolf grabbing as many orbs as possible. You can res with the rest of the raid with the tree after the suicide and burn your cooldowns on that module spawn, but then make sure that you die alongside it when it goes off and go back to collecting orbs for the rest of the fight. This will basically just be your whole job in the last phase, and you won't really have to worry about dealing damage, but just make sure that you efficiently grab those orbs and don't run into any shard that's going to slow you down. If you're upstairs, note how many bops that you have available during the Edge of Annihilation if you're out of the group with Rage of Sargeras, as being reliably safe and stable is much better than risking positioning and being knocked into the group. Finally, be aware in this phase of just how fragile you can be with some mechanics, in particular when there's rent souls that are floating around, so play it safe. Don't be afraid to drop some healing surges on you if you feel like the raid is under high damage pressure, and just make sure that you follow where the raid is moving. This is also coupled with making sure that you absolutely don't get any stacks of either Rage or Fear, because both of these will put you in high danger if there's any other dots going on, such as the chain breaks. So, unsurprisingly, this was the longest of all the explanations, and the delay I apologise for with this one, but that's a wrap on Antaurus for me. The response has been really good so far on these, so I intend to do it in BFA, hopefully, generally with a bit more pace, and also make sure that I have them a lot earlier for people as I kill the bosses. With the end of this series, I'll be moving on to alpha content, which I'll be talking about briefly from now. So thanks for the support, and I really hope this series has been useful to all of you, and I'll see you in the next expansions.
Change a thing now, there was never trust. Don't you say a word, cause I've heard it all. You were just pain when you felt it all. Oh. Something tells me that I won't miss it. It's the first time that we can't fix it. It's irreversible damage done. The thrill is gone. Ooh, baby, there ain't no one like you. You chose to keep the truth inside. Ooh, baby, gave my all to you. All you did was tell me lies. Something tells me that I won't miss it. It's the first time that we can't fix it. It's irreversible damage done. The thrill is gone. Once you leave me, it's over. No turning back, not today.